Good morning, Lee. Good morning, Matthew. How are you doing? Hi, Donna. We'll just give things a few moments. Hi, Charles. This morning's mug is the second mug. A friend of mine, hi Ben, Sam Lee, bought me 2 mugs, and this is the other one. So, thanks Sam, hope you're watching. The whole family, that's brilliant. Hi Elaine. Good morning. Right. Well, it's my 10-minute lunch morning break, isn't it? One day I will. Hi Sheila. One day I will have a bacon sandwich with this cup of tea, but we never know. Hi Julie. Hi John. But for now, just a cup of tea and my 10 minutes of my thoughts for the day. Today is June the 10th. Morning Luke, and we're going to be talking a little bit about a chap called Zacchaeus. For those of you who went to Sunday school, there was a Sunday school song. Now Zacchaeus was, I'm not going to sing it, don't worry. Now Zacchaeus was a very little man, and a very little man was he. He climbed up to a sycamore tree for the Saviour he wanted to see. And so it goes on. And those of you who went to Sunday school are now singing that song, I will guarantee it, for the Saviour he wants to see. So Zacchaeus, to me, is quite a well-known person in the Bible. But mainly because of that, so I'm not singing it then, no way. For me, Zacchaeus is a well-known person in the Bible. You know, he's the guy that we sung about at Sunday school, and it was a good song. This week, we've talked about how Jesus dealt with prejudices. We've talked about those that he dealt with that were marginalised due to colour, gender, race, religion, whatever. I mean, we've done a comparison about how we should treat those people. Now, in my opinion, there we go. Someone else sort of sense of in my opinion. Prejudices to me are not really logical. There is no logic that says I am worth more because of the colour of my skin or my race or my religion. There is no logic to that. Prejudices are an emotional thing. There is no logic to them, in my opinion. However, there sometimes is there is a reason why we dislike some people. There is a rationale behind it. Hi Leah. Hi Miranda. There are some people that are disliked, outcast, hated even, and there is a reason for that, and it is logical. There are some bad people out there, people that would harm us, and we avoid those people. There are people out there that have harmed us, and understandably, it's hard sometimes to get our head around how we should feel towards people that are bad people, nasty people, people that have done you harm. And if anything, I found Jesus' approach to these people harder to accept because, as always, Jesus loved them. As always, of course, Jesus loved them. And we don't want that sometimes, do we? Because we want Jesus to judge them. We want a God of judgment on the people that we don't like, or the people that we feel are better than us, but we want a God of mercy on us. Well, at least I do. Maybe that's just me. But you know, tax collectors in the biblical times were hated. Man, they were hated. Of course, most of us probably don't like paying taxes, but we accept it as being part of living in this world. And we don't hate tax collectors. I don't anyway. But in biblical times, for good reason, tax collectors were hated. And that is because, imagine this comparison. England has been taken over and we have an evil oppressor. And the evil oppressor is keeping us down, it's robbing us of our lands, it's taking things from us. But then our next door neighbour goes to work for the evil oppressor as a tax collector. And he collects tax off us and gives it to our evil oppressor. We really don't like that. And he's taxing us much higher than what we would normally get taxed before the evil oppressor came in. Not only that, he's not only taxing us on behalf of what he should be paying the evil oppressor, but he's pocketing some. He's taking money out of my pocket and putting it in his own pocket, and he's my neighbour, and he's English, and he is working for the evil oppressor. And then over time, I noticed that the same guy has got a brand new car, and my car's old, and he's got a block paved drive, and his kids are going on to private schools, and all of a sudden it becomes clear that this person who works for our evil oppressor is basically living off the back of other people in England or the UK or wherever you live. And that's similar to what was going on with the tax collectors in biblical times. That's why they were hated. They were hated because they were robbers. They were dishonest robbers. And Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector. So he was a bad one. He got there because he was a bad man. So Luke 19 says this. Luke 19:1. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. Now, in the song we used to go, and he said, now Zacchaeus, and all the kids used to go, you come down. Oh, anyway, we'll have to be 10 again. So Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to the guests of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay him back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. So Zacchaeus, a hated man, hated by the Jews, and probably despised by the Romans as well. An outcast from his own people, and an outcast from his masters. Overtaxing the Jews, pocketing the money. No wonder the crowd muttered when they saw him. No wonder the crowd muttered when they saw Jesus pay him respect. Probably that crowd, there's all these people in this crowd knowing that Jesus heals, knowing that Jesus is who he is and he's a great prophet as they saw it. All of them desperate for Jesus to reach out and perhaps say something to them. And then he has the audacity to look up into a tree where short Zacchaeus is, the tax collector, the robber, and say, hiya Zacchaeus, and call him out. I bet they were furious. This is because in society there are people like Zacchaeus. People whom, for good reason, are often hated and despised by others within that same society. And in Zacchaeus' case, it was probably well deserved. As well as being a horrible, dishonest, disloyal tax collector, the Bible also tells us he makes a point to say that he was small. Now because of this, it says he climbed a sycamore tree for the Saviour he wanted to see. And he also may have climbed the sycamore tree because he didn't want folk to see him. He didn't want folk to talk about him. He may have been the sort of guy that people jostled and pushed around when he was actually face to face. But Jesus sees Terence up that tree, and Jesus sees Zacchaeus up that tree and calls him out. Because that's what Jesus does. He sees us wherever we are. Whatever tree we climb, whatever hole we dig, he sees us where we are. And he calls us by name. And he says, Zacchaeus, or Terence, or whatever your name is, I want to have tea with you today. Now, having tea, going to someone's house in this particular environment was probably more significant than you can imagine. So, not only did Jesus invite himself to this home of Zacchaeus, which would have been a place I wouldn't say of ill repute, but without credibility. But also to have Jesus, the prophet, in your home would have been a real honour. It might well be that morning several people asked Jesus and said, "Oh Jesus, after you've done this walk around with this crowd, do you want to come back to mine for a cup of tea?" And Jesus turned them down. Jesus didn't say why, but he knew he had to meet Zacchaeus. So the crowd is saying, well, it's all very well. We've been here all this time, and then this bloke, who we know is a right dodgy character, Jesus not only calls to him by name, he then says, "Can I come round to your house and have a cup of tea?" He's giving all the honour to a man without honour. That's really challenging. That's much more challenging, I think, than some of the other things we've been talking about. But Jesus does things like that. And thank God that he does. Because let's be honest, we've all fallen short of that standard. It may well be in society we can look at some people and say, they're a bad person, they're worse than me. But we've all fallen short of the standard. Every one of us has. And therefore, that's it. We're below the line. We're below the level. So whether we're the worst person in the world or actually trying quite hard to be a good person, it's irrelevant in God's eyes. We've fallen short of the standard. And he calls us out and he says, "I love you and I want to come to your house for a cup of tea." So why did Jesus do that then? Well, I'm going to pick on 3 reasons, but there's loads. First and foremost, he did it simply because he loves people. He loves Zacchaeus as much as he loved Peter, Thomas, John, as much as he loved them all. He loves Zacchaeus. Secondly, Jesus is making a point to the people there about love and equity. And also, he's sowing a seed about grace. See, let's face it, it's what I love about Jesus. Some of the stuff that Jesus did, there's loads of messages in it when you start to actually examine what he did and why he did it. Because Jesus hadn't died at this time, so therefore we were still under the old covenant. And yet there's no question about it. I can't imagine that Zacchaeus was a good law-abiding Jew. But here's Jesus. What does he say? Today, so Jesus says this to this non-law-abiding Jew. "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." So Jesus is sowing a seed there about grace and about the fact that we don't need to be under the law, we are in grace. Which is quite a big deal, and it would have been a big deal to those people. And thirdly, Jesus is teaching us about how to live, about equality. He's teaching us that we need to love the Zacchaeuses in our lives, even if it's hard. Let's not forget, we are all outcasts. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. We have all fallen short of the standard. But thankfully, the God that we worship is loving, he's kind, and he reaches out to us. He's not a taskmaster, he's not judgmental, he loves us. Christianity is first and foremost a gospel of love. Serving God who is loving. God who loves the poor and the rich. God who loves the hip and trendy and the less hip and trendy. In short, Jesus loves the good, the bad and the ugly. And he loves outcasts like Zacchaeus and like Terence Clark. Thank God for that. So that's me done for today. As you know, we've not got a devotional tonight. We're giving those a rest for a while, but stay with us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for the continuation of this little series. Have a lovely day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.